Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of If It Isn't Love podcast. I am your hostess, Danisha.
And I'm your co-host, J.L. Woodson.
And we're happy to be back and be black. How are you?
I'm tired, but I'm good.
You're tired because we're recording on Monday. We normally record on Sunday, so we're recording on a Monday today. So that's good.
Somebody decided they wanted to clean up yesterday.
I did. Now, very grateful that you participated, but you did that willingly. I loved it. I love that I didn't say a single word. I said I need to clean up. Like I felt it in my soul. Like I needed to clean up. And I'm going to say I've been very productive this morning. I got up, I worked out, groceries got delivered, they got put away. You didn't have to clean it. It's so much harder to just do the stuff you need to do when you're having to like clean up behind your, like before you can adjust things. Mm-hmm. We've been living in here. I keep saying 5 months or 6 months. It's been 7 months, just about 7 months that we've lived in this apartment. And there were some things that had not happened. You know, like I never cleaned the refrigerator before. And we've talked about this before in the podcast. I just grew up in a house where like, that was like, my mom would be like, this weekend, clean the refrigerator out. When you start to notice, like, we had the strawberries and like some of them, like they got all mushy on the bottom. So like there's this red and then like there was like green from something else and yellow from something else. And we just keep putting food on top of it. And it's just not clean. And especially when you put like bare food, like a piece of produce in there and you just put it over pickle juice and you don't know, it's kind of gross. So I was just like, I need to clean up. It also spurred from watching a lot of court TV. I've been watching a lot of People's Court in the last like month or so. And People's Court, if you're familiar, most of their cases, I mean, they have various cases, but a lot of them are about people trying to get their security deposits back once they move out. Mm-hmm. Dog bites and car accidents. Those are like the top 3 that you see on People's Court. And so in the last apartment, it's not that it didn't matter to clean up because it did, but there was no security deposit. A lot of places here don't do security deposits. They just do, what do they call it? No, it's just like it's a rental deposit. It's usually, usually your security deposit is like at least a month of your rent. And sometimes it is a month and a half or first and last or whatever. Mm-hmm. But first and last means like when it's your last month, you technically won't have to pay, right? You're paying first and last. So if you're like, all right, next month is our last month, we wouldn't have to pay because we already have paid it in advance. Mm-hmm. So a lot of places just have a deposit. Like my last place, the deposit was like $150. It's just a deposit. I did not get that back. But it's so much smaller and it was to kind of like hold the apartment. Mm-hmm. Even though I was expecting for us to get some kind of a bill because there were some markings on the walls and stuff that was, even if it wasn't my fault personally, it was under someone who was in my house who, you know, so it's like, okay, there was stuff on the walls. And then there was some stuff like from we put nails and stuff in the wall where the plaster came off. And you know, you have to replace, if you don't replace it, you have to pay for it. Mm-hmm. So whatever. But they never gave us a bill or anything. So I was grateful for that. This apartment, we did put out a security deposit. And I want to say it was like a month and a half or 2 months, or maybe I'm making that up. Maybe it was just
I would
one.
have to look at it again.
Right. Maybe it was just one. But I know that there is a refundable deposit, but people can keep your deposit if there are issues, right? Anything beyond normal wear and tear. And now some people will say, well, we need to shampoo the carpets, so they'll deduct that. It depends on the place, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why, so I've kind of been like, I should have took a video when we first moved in, because what a lot of people do is they like, beyond taking pictures, they will record. And it's like, all right, this is me in our first bath. This is the day we're moving in, see no furniture. We are opening the cabinet. So everything you see. So even if there are things that's like, I don't care, right? Like, there's like a water spot. And I did go when we did our or rental move-in, I marked down everything. Because I've had this happen where people try to charge me for stuff. So I was like, oh, there's a crack in this blind. It doesn't really bother me, but I made sure I noted all of these things so that if it's still there, when we move out, people are not like, you did it. The other thing I try to be cognizant of, if something needs repair, I ask to get it repaired while we're here because it's free. So people don't think about that. If I ask you to repair something, you repair it while I live here, it's free. If I move out and you have to fix it, now you're charging me for something that is broken, right? So I try to just note everything. Even like, on the dryer, it's like it melted like some of the, I wrote that. Like if you look at the dryer, I wrote every little inconsistency, like a little there. Oh, there's a piece of plastic because I don't want to get charged. Anyway, what it all boils down to is they can also charge you additional, like for cleaning fees if things need additional cleaning. So it's like you didn't clean the stove out. And I just remember when I cleaned the stove when we moved from the last apartment, I had never cleaned that stove. And I lived in that apartment for 2 years. So think of all the food and stuff that just drips to the bottom. And something happened maybe like 2 months ago where something spilled in the bottom. And it's just like, so that every time you turn the oven on, it's just baking in and baking in and baking in and baking in. So, and even the top, I think the glass top to our stove was new. It didn't have a lot of marks, but it had some like additional ones. I thought I put this on vibrate. So I went ahead and made sure I cleaned that. Now I didn't get everything out, but my thought is if I did this quarterly, right? So if like into the new year, because it's almost October, I did this again, then I would get even more off, right? Because that's like 7 months of grime. Or whatever. So my thought is if you're constantly kind of like doing the little bit, you don't have to do as much. And like I said, like when we swept in the living room and mopped the living room, we've been living here 7 months. Don't think we're gross, but we never moved the couch. And it was a water bottle under there, a dryer sheet, you know what I'm saying? A lot of dust. So it never swept under the couch since we moved here. So I just felt like it needed to be done. And as we get more into this episode, like there was kind of like a refreshing that I needed to really be able to be more productive this week and to get some stuff done. And I feel like cleaning helped. And I'm glad you helped me clean up. So he did help me clean the bathrooms, did all the mopping and sweeping. So that was very helpful. And I'm glad because then I got to go to sleep when I wanted to, because I was not going to go until I finished. Or then I didn't have to get up this morning and be cleaning up. I got to like get up, go work out, come back, shower, get dressed, and be ready. Sent the emails that I need to send, filled out forms that I didn't think I was going to have to fill out for work. Did a lot of stuff that I did have time. Had to go downstairs to pick up the groceries because the gate wasn't working. Put the groceries away. So I just feel like it feels good to have gotten that done. So I know you're tired, but I appreciate you helping clean up. And now it's just, the house smells good. It smells like whatever, ocean fresh or whatever. I feel like we need some more plug-ins. We need some more like air freshener and then some flowers. All we need is a good set of flowers on the table. We'll be good to go.
But they gonna die.
Such is life. Everything dies. It does, right? Okay. So originally I was going to say, I don't want to make this episode too long, but every time I say that it ends up being long.
Being an hour.
Because we talk. But I really don't have a lot to say aside from Jeremy and I talked yesterday and we made a decision it was my prompting to take a break on the podcast for a few months. So this episode will be our last episode of 2021, but we will be back next year. So it is seriously a hiatus. We're not saying goodbye. So when I prompted him with like, what did he think about taking a break? For me, it came because I needed the break. And I really love doing the podcast a lot. But what I found was it was turning into so much more work. So we do the podcast together. He does a lot of the production setup and the editing, and getting the clips together and all that. And then like I produce the content. So like for the most part, I come up with the topics and all that kind of stuff. And so when he was like, you know, what are we talking about tomorrow? And I just found myself like not being prepared. And I have all of these ideas for things that I want to talk about, guests I want to have come on, and I'm just not moving forward with it. In addition to that, as of last week, I started a second job. So I started a new job, but I still have my old job. And I started teaching, and it just takes a lot of prep and work. It means more time I'm going to be, my stomach is growling crazy. More time I'm going to be out of the house during the week. And I am still very much so in a space where I want to rest, right? Like I want to make sure that I'm resting. I did want to be like, oh, weekends are dedicated to rest, but that's just not in the cards for me currently, because I will have to work on weekends. But I don't want to, normally I just be like, yep, I'll do everything. But I really felt like the podcast would suffer and I would resent it. And if I'm being honest, I think that's kind of what happened a little bit. There were other factors, but I think that's what a little bit happened with Woke and Ratchet, is that I just had so much going on, and then pandemic, and it was harder because we had to do it. Like we didn't live together. My other co-hosts, we didn't live together. So it was even more complicated, and the work behind it started taking the fun out of it. And I want to enjoy this a lot. I enjoy talking. I enjoy doing this with you. I enjoy the different topics we explore. Sometimes when it just gets really random, I love that too. I like this. I think that we put out good content, but I honestly believe it would suffer. I felt it. The other part is I don't think I've shared this with you. I have started to have more actively anxious moments, not panic attacks. So I have not gone there, and I have every reason to believe it won't go there. But I have started to feel a lot more anxious than I have in a long time. And so I'm thinking about all the work that I've done in combating my anxiety, and I want to make sure that I'm not undoing the work that I've done. And so I'm listening to my body. I'm listening to my mind. I mean, my stomach's going out of control. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can
it is like, I need to eat.
Your body talking. Like,
it's like, I don't know, y'all can't hear it, but I feel it. And I feel like I hear it so loud. I want to be very cognizant. And so I feel like normally I would just be like, nope, I'll just keep doing everything, and I'll pile this thing on top of this thing, on top of this thing, on top of this thing. Because capitalism and go, and productivity, and that's sure you got to do everything until I would break. And now my threshold is fairly high before I crack. Well, it used to be, right? I feel like I don't know what it is now, and I don't want to. I don't want to know how much I can bear before I crack. Instead, I'm going to decide when I'm feeling the difference and it's negatively impacting my mind. And how it is for me, anxiety looks different for everyone else. Something will happen, usually on the grand scheme of things, something very insignificant, and I cannot stop replaying the thing or the loop. And what it was is Friday when my boss emailed me, and I told you about the email, and it was after I reread it, it was just a question. It was just like a note she put in. And like I said, it could be something she sent to everyone. I don't know. But I literally all weekend have been replaying it to the point that when I wake up in my sleep, I'm dreaming about it. And the first thing I think when I wake up is what she said. And I'm just I'm re-looping negative emotions. And I'm like, okay, you need to process, you need to think, you need to clear some stuff out. And I found myself also just all day not being able to be present because I'm just thinking about the next thing I need to do instead of really just taking the time to do what I'm doing and be in the moment, which I have done a lot of work to just be in the moment.
Right.
And not always. So, the other part is, like I said, I really enjoy the podcast and I was doing it a disservice. I feel like it's like my baby and I'm neglecting it and not treating it right. And I don't want that to be the case. Mm-hmm. So, right now, I think we have a lot on our plates also, not just me, but you have different things going on in terms of work and teaching and transitioning different things in terms of your career, and the wedding planning stuff is getting more real. Because I mean, it's going beyond the planning. It's also like, now you have to do this and you're going to have to start paying for stuff. And that's part of the reason I took the second job, because I mean, I was looking for a second job, period. And I thought it might have to be something like Uber or whatever, which I've done before and I'm not above, but being able to teach and make it, and at the end of it, I have a significant amount of money to contribute towards wedding expenses, household expenses, because while we're doing all this, we're still trying to like pay down debt, just a lot of other stuff that's coming of it. And so I'm just wanting to be very aware of that. So I'm happy to have the second job. And actually, I was so nervous about it, but after I taught my first class, my students are really great and I really enjoyed it. So I'm excited about it, aside from the fact that it's in the evening. So it's like after a full day of work, then teaching for 3 hours. It's going to be a lot in that regard, but it'll be fine. So I just say all that to say, we're going to take a break, and, although for the first month, like probably October, I'm not going to do anything regarding the podcast. I think that starting in November, specifically in December too, once I have 3 weeks off from work, from my primary job, although I do have to teach that first week while I'm on vacation, I will do a lot of work in terms of scheduling the content, making sure we have things. So when we come out in January, I think we need to get ahead of a schedule so that when we're recording, we're not always recording for the next week, right? Some of it will be, right? Because especially sometimes we talk about current events and things like that. You can't be like, oh, we're going to talk about this thing Nicki Minaj did and then put it out 3 months later, and it doesn't have the same kind of impact or relevance. Right. But when we're not talking about current events and we have things that are, we can decide, like, and that's just part of it, deciding like, okay, maybe the first week of the month, the episode is a current event, and then maybe the other weeks there's like very specific content, so that we can say we can prepare for this content, and then the other content it is something that maybe a little bit different. So I'm going to really dedicate some time to make sure that what I produce and the content that I'm creating is going to work for us and it's going to be good. We might, by that time we might be able to give like the, our, what do you call that? What's the thing on the podcast that shows our little, like when you're looking for the podcast thumbnail, you might be able to update our thumbnail. I mean, we have new pictures now, so we may be able to do some of that. We will still be putting out content on our Instagram page, so a lot of that content we'll still do, but the podcast just needs to take a step back. And part of that is also leaning into rest, because then I don't get to rest on Sunday because I get up, try to shower and get dressed. And not that you don't too, because you have to set up, and I know sometimes you set up the night before, and then it's just like to have to like put on the face and do all that. And also usually on Sundays I'm trying to like cook and order groceries, and it's a lot. And I feel like I'm never having a morning where I just can chill out, or I'm chilling out, but I'm neglecting something that needs to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, I'm not opposed to this break because honestly, like, I mean, I told her yesterday, like, even before, like, we had that conversation, like, maybe we should just do it every 2 weeks or something like that. Because, like, I get it. Like, yeah, it's Sunday. Like, I choose not to work on the weekends. Like, even with my regular job, I choose not to work on the weekends. Only because, like, throughout the week, yeah, you get everything from me. The weekend, I need to myself. I need to, like, spend time with you. I need to do things, like, around the house and stuff like that. And then on top of that, yeah, I do have a lot going on, like, coming up and everything like that. I developed my first class for book cover design. I developed my lesson plan and everything like that. So I really, like, even just the idea from that, like, I've been wanting to teach some sort of graphic design elements and everything, but I just never really thought, like, I'm like, okay, I'm still a freelancer. I'm still, not as high on the pedestal as Chris Doe and stuff like that. And I'm like, wait, I have something to offer. So there are quite a few people who want to learn this because I did a survey about it and they actually want to learn this stuff. So why not put it out there and, like, possibly have some help with this stuff like that. But also, I think, like, outside of, like, doing most of, like, the labor work as far as, like, setting up and everything like that, we don't really have much time. Like, all we have is really Saturday.
Yeah.
And not even that sometimes. So, I mean, I'm not opposed. I get it. Because even right now I'm sleepy, and you can probably hear it in my voice. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think I thought about it as in depth as you did. I'm like,
thanks, therapy.
I mean, I don't know. My therapist got me to not working on the weekends, so, like, that's a big plus. But, like, I do feel like sometimes, like, setting up the podcast and making sure things look right and everything, like, that's work. Because even when we were just sitting right here doing the podcast and everything like that, like, I'm over here thinking about ways to make it better. I'm over here thinking about stuff that we could possibly have in the future. Like, so we're not relying so much on the laptop and everything like that, like equipment that we could possibly have. And I don't know, like, after a while, it did seem like it was an extra job and everything, but at the same time, like, it was fun.
And I don't say work like it's negative, right? Like, even in my other job, even though I have, everything has its ups and downs, right? In my primary job, there are things I do not like that get on my nerves or whatever. But by and large, I enjoy it, right? Like, I enjoy it more than I don't. Mm-hmm. Do I think it's my end goal? I've already had conversations. Like, I don't think this is where I want to be long term. I see the universe giving me more and more signs that this is not where I need to be. And that's part of it too. Like, I need to be a lot more involved in the content that I create for my own brand and the things that I want to do if I want to follow through with my plan and not working for this company or in this capacity in a few years. And so I need to do the work. And I just feel I feel it, like, on a soul level, and so many signs are, like, bombarding me daily, like, saying I need to go elsewhere and I need to do other things. And it probably is going to be sooner than I expect. So I want to be, I think it's a quote from Oprah where she said, there's no such thing as luck. It's only where preparation meets opportunity, right? So many of us want opportunities, but we're not prepared for it. So I want to make sure that I'm doing everything possible. So if somebody was like, hey, we got this brand deal, or, you want to do this, I already have the kind of content. They already see what I'm producing. And like I said, this is part of that. If It Isn't Love is part of that for me, but I'm just not able to give it the kind of love it deserves right now. And so I would rather, because I care about it, I would rather say, let me put it to the side than begrudgingly do something or do it half-assed.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't want to do it half-assed. I would rather be in a position where I have a balance, right? I highly doubt that after this semester, I'll teach next semester, simply because wedding. And all the activities involved in weddings. It also will make me need to physically be gone more for wedding stuff. And then when I think about like, I think that semester will go over into May, and I'm definitely not going to be trying to teach while I'm getting ready to get married. And there's just so much. So I probably won't, but I don't know. So this is the best opportunity to be able to do that and find that balance. And then, you know, like I said, starting in January, I won't have the second job, but we will still have a lot of wedding stuff. But the idea is there will be content. There's a plan. There's an outline, which is something that I don't have right now. And when we started the podcast, we had a lot more time. I work from home. We both work from home full time when we started the podcast. I had a different job where I had responsibility, but I had less responsibility. We were in full pandemic mode. So like there was no expectation for people to go out. And like now I just spend a lot more time outside the house. Now, especially because I started working out in the mornings, there will be times where like now, it's like starting tomorrow, I'll leave at 5:40 in the morning. And I'm not coming home. I won't get home until a little bit after 9 because I teach tomorrow. So I'll just be gone all day. And that's what it'll be like for a while. So even though this is something we do together, I do want us to also be more cognizant of making sure that there is time every week now that we're not. Sometimes I think we take it for granted because we're just like, oh, you're in the house, I'm in the house, so we together. But I think moving forward, we're going to have to be like, all right, this is the time that we're going to go out and do this, or we're going to very consciously watch this movie together, right? Like sometimes we haphazardly, let's turn on TV and we be together, and that's fine. But make more dedicated time for one another because we also have separate things we do, right? Like I realize that sometimes, you know, even when I'm out of the house, like, oh yeah, for work, but then I go work out or I do something like Saturday, I work out Saturday mornings, which is fine because you usually sleep when I leave. So I go work out Saturday mornings and that's still important to me. Like I still want to I need that time to myself and I need that time for my fitness and all that kind of stuff. So just giving space to really be able to rearrange and reevaluate stuff. And like I said, to make sure that I treat the baby right. And not do it a disservice. And I really don't want to start having panic attacks again because I'm trying to do too much. I'm in this space where I'm trying to figure out the levels of productivity that I want to have. Like, I feel like the world is trying to push me back into super productive, always go down this shit. And I'm strongly resisting it. But there is also a level of give in that I need to give in to so that I can have what I want and so that I can rest more later. But I also don't want it to be like, you can, break when you dead, or I don't want that, right? I want to rest now. I want to enjoy life now, but I realize I may not be able to rest fully like I want to right now because what I want in the current society I live in means I got to work a little harder.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that, right? I feel like the more is more on my terms, and I'm still not about to be, at work first thing, last one to leave and working out. No, that's still not going to be me, but I'm going to make the best use of the time that I am there and make sure that I'm focused on those tasks and getting things done. So,
right.
And all over, making sure that I'm doing more of what I need to do to get my shit done.
Makes sense.
So, anything you want to add?
Not really. Like, I just don't. I mean, when you brought it up or when you said it, like I said, I had no objection. Only because, I didn't want to necessarily, stop, but at the same time, I wanted to at least space it out a little bit more. That way, we could come up with or have content But like it wasn't in my mind to like take a break or anything like that. But at the same time, I'm not opposed.
And so my idea and my thought behind that, because his suggestion was that we do every other week. And so my perspective is I don't like the idea of only doing every other week because and maybe everybody doesn't consume podcasts the same, but I'm a person who listens to podcasts every single day and largely on my commute. And I have an expectation, like I know when these episodes of this is going to come out and when I listen to. And so when you don't have a consistent thing and something being weekly where it's like, oh, I know on Tuesdays this comes out, or I know on Wednesdays this comes out. And when you don't know, it's like, oh, is it the first and third Wednesday or is it second and fourth? And then people start to forget about you when you don't come more regularly. Like when you're not as consistent in terms of a weekly thing. And there are things that happen monthly that make sense. But I just think when things happen on a weekly basis, that people don't care about the date. They care about the day of the week. If we have something where they had to care about, oh, it's like every other Wednesday, then people get too confused. And I think people start to forget about you. And in terms of our numbers, we need the viewership. So we need more consistent content. I just want to make sure that it's quality content. And not only in the recording of the podcast, like I mentioned, in the marketing. I think sometimes we need to do more. And that's something that we can focus on in this time that we're going to take off from recording the podcast, making sure that other social media content that we create of, you know, stuff we do together and videos and reels and all the other TikTok and all that other kind of stuff, that we can stay abreast of that to get our viewership up, to get our engagement up of our page, so that when it comes to the podcast, it's like, oh, they have a podcast too, but we like to just watch them on Instagram, right? Like that kind of thing, which is a little, oftentimes it's more, it's easier to do those in spurts. And even though there has to be a level of consistency. With podcasts. And you know, everything doesn't translate the same, because there are couples that I love, people I love on Instagram, and they have podcasts and I don't like them as much. And there are some who I love their podcasts and not necessarily their Instagram content. And there are some that I love both. And it just depends. And really the main one I can think of is like Count Stage. I love all the stuff he puts on Instagram, and I love hit the podcast with Angel. Here's the thing. It's like one of my favorite pieces of content that I get during the week.
I think for me, like I like Kevin on Stage and his wife and Angel too. I like the Ellises.
I have a hard time getting with their podcast. I love their Instagram content. The podcast, not as much. And that's exactly who I was thinking about when I thought about couples, that I love their content. Like, I love following them on Instagram and all of that. Podcasts, I've listened to it a few times and I can take it or leave it. Whereas, I don't know, my podcast, and it's just me as a consumer. I want my podcast to either inform me, like enlighten me, or make me laugh. And I think that sometimes I don't get the laugh factor with them, and it's cool. Like sometimes their perspectives, it's fine. Something wrong with it. I just think some of the other content that I get, either like I listen to On Purpose with Jay Shetty, and I'm always so informed. And then I listen to Here's the Thing with Kevin on Stage and Angel, and I am cracking up, like,
and informed,
crying, laughing most times. Like, I forgot something happened the other day. I was listening and I was hollering. Like, it was so funny while I was driving. So but also just thinking about that kind of stuff and what do we want our audience to gain? And I think we did it and it was fun. And I think we had a lot of ideas, but I think that some of it we didn't flesh some of that stuff out. So this is a good time for a revamp. And for me, I don't think that just because something is good doesn't mean it's right. If that makes sense. Like, just because it's good doesn't mean that it is what it should be. And it doesn't mean that we should be afraid to take a break from it. Right? I think about when people leave jobs, because it's what I do for a living. When people I don't leave jobs for a living, but I help people with that. leave jobs for a living. I think that sometimes people always think like it
go
has
in.
to.
Hey, I'm out.
Like my job has to be terrible and I hate it here for me to leave. No, just when the season is up, when it's time to move forward, that's when you should. And we shouldn't be so attached to what we've been that it blocks us from who we can be. And that's how I feel. I feel like there is a rebirthing of this concept that can be done, but we need a break to do it the service that it does. I need the break, and I would like my Sunday mornings back for a little while. I would like that time to decompress, to lesson plan, to sit and stare at the wall, to take a walk. I keep wanting to take a walk, but I'm not going to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and walk on Sunday when I get up that early every other day. It's not because I'm not awake, because I am, but I'd rather wait till 7 or 8. And if I'm not having to worry about like hurrying to finish this walk so you can go back and shower and put a full face on to do the podcast, then for right now, that's what I need. So I'm happy that you were willing to move forward with that, and there wasn't a lot of resistance in terms of being able.
No, we gotta keep doing this. The show must go on.
Yeah, I'm glad that those theatrics did not come about. So thank you guys for.
This ain't Ike and Tina.
Thank you guys for being with us this season, right? So this is just wrapping up our second season.
Yeah.
We're going to come back to you with season.
And the thing is, like, this is 27 episodes.
Right. This is still 27 episodes. So that's good.
Yeah.
I think it's more than last time.
Shoot, it's like.
But we started in the middle of the year last time. So we're just ending off the last quarter. So we're going to end up we're starting our holiday break a lot earlier than we would have. But we will be, and that's the other thing. When we come back next year, I think we need very scheduled breaks. So it's not like I'm just so tired, I need to take a break. It'll be like, okay, we have these episodes, and then we're going to be like, oh, we're taking out these first 2 weeks in March or whatever.
Y'all ain't getting no episode during the week of the wedding.
Right. There probably won't be any May episodes, right? And then we're going to come back in June, but we'll schedule that and we'll let people know, like, or, we'll have it where it's like, people do like a recap, or they do like they repost an old episode. Like you get to remember this, blah, blah, blah. So maybe we'll go back and put our first episode ever, or whatever the case is. Right. So just be on the lookout for that. If you're not already, please make sure that you're following us at If It Isn't Love Podcast on Instagram. Share with your friends, because I'm sure that there are episodes that they could listen to that they haven't. If this is the first episode you've ever listened to or ever watched, go back and watch all the rest. There's at least 40 or so between the first 2 seasons for you to go back and re-listen to or to listen to for the first time or watch. We appreciate all the support and love that everyone has given us. Continue to send out positive vibes and prayers for us as we prepare to enter into a holy matrimony. And just on all of our future endeavors. I'm actually very excited about all the stuff that we have coming up, and like I feel it. I know I say it all the time. I really feel it in my bones. Like it's about to get so big for us. And so I'm trying to prepare myself for all of the greatness that's in store. So that's all I got. Happy New Year. Until next time, until 2022. See y'all in 2022.
Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, all that good stuff.
Kwanzaa, Hanukkah. That's how you say it. Hanukkah. See you guys in the future. All because of you. All because of you.